So here we'd like to have just a few moments, come on up for a few moments. We have Holger Thuss and Wolfgang Müller. Now, ideally, I would be sitting on that chair with them, but we have one handheld mic, so I'm going to stay up here, but have a seat. And on the audience's right, Holger Thuss is the founder and president of the European Institute for Climate and Energy. And on the audience's left is Wolfgang Müller, who is the General Secretary here in the United States. We don't use that term much, but in the EU, that is a very prestigious position. So if you would, gentlemen, first of all, just outline for the audience what the European Institute for Climate and Energy is, what it does. Tell us your fantastic acronym.
I mean, the European Institute for Climate and Energy, we are a charitable organization. We are not related to the European Union, so we are definitely independent, utterly privately supported, and no industry funding. And of course, we all believe in world peace. And I mean, no kidding. Since 2007, when we started this, we had no idea that a situation like, okay, let's forget about Corona for the time being, but that we will live in a world where actually every year is topping the last year in insanity, in the level of insanity. And the last event where James attended our conference in Munich, our International Conference for Climate and Energy, which we have annually, usually, we had to have police protection to protect us from Antifa. And to make it even more funnier, the conference venue was canceled 10 days before the event took place. And now try to find a place, for a few hundred people for 2 days in a row. We managed because the white flag, that's not our logo. And so it's quite, if you think you have a hard time here in Europe, here in the United States, just come to Europe and have a breeze, when you see that Antifa has offices at the university or even in cities paid by taxpayers' money. And so it's quite an interesting world we live in. But I don't want to say too much. I give you the mic to my colleague Holger, who since 2007 we do this jointly.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. It's always a great pleasure to be here and to meet so many friends. 2007, it's a long time ago. We started this together with other people, so I was not the only one. And our work is more or less what also Heartland is doing, except not so much a focus on legislators. So we publish things and like, for example, this book came out. It's even in English if you want to have one. And we have a YouTube page and all these things, social media, that you need to have nowadays to be heard. And we have this conference. That's the main activity every year against many obstacles and much resistance. It has become really crazy. This year we hardly got a conference venue. We had to go to a very remote place. They take us mainly because the city is bankrupt and they need the money. I could go on with many other anecdotes, but maybe you also have a few serious questions.
So, and it's really interesting. I'd like to provide a little context to this. Now, I first came into contact with Wolfgang and Holger back at our first climate conference. Wolfgang came up to me and said, "Hey, we love what you're doing here. What we're doing here today, back in 2007. Please join with us. Let's share ideas. We'd like to have a similar climate conference in Europe." They have been holding it annually. And over those 14 years, getting to know Wolfgang and Holger, let me tell you, again, like so many of the scientists who we honored last night, who have passed on, of course, so many who are still here, these are wonderful people. The media like to vilify us and make us into these cartoon villains and horrible people. Spend an evening with Wolfgang or Holger, and you're going to be a better person for it. I love you guys so much, seriously. And you contrast that when Wolfgang mentioned how Antifa showed up. Now, I was there, that was in Munich when that happened. I was going to be participating, as we often do. We joined forces. We're honored to do so. And about 10 days or so before the conference, what happened was Antifa stormed the hotel that was going to host the conference, busted the place up, and threatened to come back if they didn't cancel these climate deniers. The hotel, they didn't want to cave in, but they didn't want their employees, their guests, threatened with physical violence going through that again. They had to cancel out. And Wolfgang and Holger spent the next 10 days, I won't say in a panic because they're very level-headed, but as close as you can be to a panic without being in a panic, because they have people coming from all over the world, speakers, attendees, etc. And as news got out about what Antifa had done and was threatening to do again, nobody would host a conference. And they finally found the venue. It was actually the old airport terminal building facility. Terminal is not the right word. It's a beautiful place where they allowed us to be. And even so, Wolfgang and Holger had to keep that venue a secret until the morning of the conference because they had plants. They had plants who had registered so that when they know where it would be, then they can alert Antifa. So that morning when it's announced, by that evening, Antifa had put on, and by the way, Antifa's taunting ICA throughout the time about how they shut them down, and they're going to come and they're going to show up again, and they're going to violently put them in our place. So Antifa now, they rally their troops, they bring a throng. If I had to estimate, I'd say about 100 or so, and they marched on the facility. The German police had to be there in riot gear to keep Antifa from storming the place, destroying the place, and inflicting physical violence on Wolfgang, Holger, Willie Soon, and others who would be there, simply because we don't believe in a climate crisis. It is unbelievable what these people are willing to do. So I'm sorry to take a little time on that, but I mean, what Wolfgang and Holger, they confront this each and every year because in Germany, people know if you host this conference, this is what you're getting. And for the facility that's hosting it this year, they have my hearty thanks and congratulations, and for Wolfgang and Holger for making it happen. So now in Germany, one of the things that we hear about quite a bit here in the States is how the energy mix in Germany has changed. Can you fill us in, guys, about what is going on for Germany's energy plans, how it's affecting availability, prices, et cetera, and is it saving our planet, as the German government says?
Yeah, I mean, just trust me. The thing is that what is really hilarious, you know, when I come to the United States, people say, "Oh no, Wolfgang, Germany is a role model." I mean, tell me how Germany does it. And it's so funny, you know, when I'm at home, I know that people say, "Okay, look at California. No, it's a role model. That's how you the energy transition." To be honest, it doesn't work. I don't want to say it won't work forever, but at least it doesn't work in a manner where we think it makes sense. One of our professors at the conference, he likes to give one example. He says, look at the ISS, the International Space Station. It runs 100% on solar, and it works. It's reliable, it's safe. But there's one major difference. There isn't a meter, and they don't have to pay, the tenants don't have to pay the electricity bill. And that's actually, in a nutshell, the situation we face in Germany. And the role model Germany is insofar anyway more hilarious because we are not a very windy country. It's not really known for so much sun in Germany. And if you look at the figures, at the numbers, they are very impressive. I mean, the installed capacity of wind and solar, including a little bit of biomass and traces of other sources, so-called renewables, we reach about 130 gigawatt, which is quite enormous if you consider that the peak consumption ever is 83. So I don't want to bore you with figures, but you would say, okay, great, you have solar and wind added together, it's more power installed than you can ever need. Yes, but only if the whole country is, the sun is shining, no clouds, and windy all over the country. Yes, but these conditions are not realistic. I don't want to say that it's not a significant contribution. We all know all over the world, in most developed countries, they have renewable energies and they, in a significant trend, increase their share in electricity production. But one thing we see is what James already indicated, the rising prices. If you think you have high electricity prices, just have a look what we have. We pay in US cents 36 cents per kilowatt hour. I'm sure that many of you don't even know what a kilowatt hour costs, and you think you have to complain about it. But it's about 3 times about what you pay in Texas, or okay, maybe it's just 50% more like in New York and California. But the point I want to make is that the trend, and it goes on and goes on. And at the same time, the stability of the grid, I mean, many of you are engineers, you know what it means. Electricity is a thing you have to consume at the same time when you produce it. And the moment there is not enough power, you have to do something. And what happened in the last few years, it sounds like a bad joke. We have something which is called politely load shedding, meaning that heavy users are taken off the grid. Some companies are cut off without any warning. I mean, I lived in India for 3 years, in the 1990s, and I found this quite irritating, a situation like this, to say it mildly. So the point I want to make, when people here say, oh, this is working, yes, it is working at a very high cost, and you have to look at the trend. And just, if you can, how much it costs is difficult to factor in, but at least, let's say, 30 billion euro a year we just spent on going green, and we're not finished yet. What is the benefit? 10% reduction of CO2 if Germany cuts its CO2 emission by 10%, we would say, okay, great, and we save the climate. Yes, some of you know the formula almost by head, but it means we save global warming, we save the world global warming of 0.00003 degrees, or maybe 4 degrees. I'm not kidding. I mean, it's like, I'm just, taking, of course, now the calculations used by the IPCC, so it's not made up by me. I'm anyway not so good in these kind of math. So if people say this works, it works for whom? The people who build it, who finance it, who market it. And at the same time, I mean, if you look at Europe, we talk, because on the panel we look about Europe, and a similar thing is actually now happening in other countries. Look at Spain. Okay, Spain has a little bit more sun than Germany, or significantly more sun, or even in Italy. But in Italy, I mean, you could even ask, who is investing there? And I guess organized crime loves investments like this. I don't want to really say that's the case, but it is so complicated, especially.
I'm thinking of a few Sopranos episodes now, Wolfgang.
Yeah,
this is good.
Seriously. I mean, seriously, everybody looks at Germany, always I'm asked, Wolfgang, how is it in Germany? But if you look on the European Union level, you can say on average, countries like Spain, Italy said, okay, we want to spend 200 billion euros, of course, in grants and subsidized loans to this. You don't have to go into the drug market anymore to maybe make so much money legally. And point I want to make, yes, it works, but what are we willing to pay financially, and as I said, also politically?
Yeah, but doesn't it make you feel noble doing so? So Wolfgang, here in the United States, it can be frustrating sometimes when we're fighting the headwinds and what people are being programmed to think about global warming and related issues. But in Europe, my impression is you are fighting an even more uphill battle than we are. On the other hand, in recent years, we have been working with folks in Central Europe, many of the countries that were behind the Iron Curtain and understand what that means. Poland, Czech Republic, Hungary, political leaders, as well as Solidarity Labor Union we've been working with over the years, are a fantastic group. And Holger, you grew up in East Germany, so you have a perspective too. So would you share with us what your thoughts are regarding the status, the state of European thought? Is there hope for the climate realist message? Is there hope for free market energy?
Yeah, there's always hope if you're a Christian, for example. Yeah. My late father always used to say, if we had known how many communists they have in the West, we would have skipped this entire reunification of Germany. And when you think that we are only when you talk about energy transition, that's all. Make no mistake, it's all social engineering. It all boils down to less market economy, less freedom, less choices. You're sitting in the cold. This is one of my other anecdotes. When we have these offices of the city administration where you get your passport, and that's also where you talk about your energy bill, because the energy supply works through the city works. That's like in the local level, that's how it is organized. And you more and more see people that they come there because they cannot afford it anymore. Our salaries, due to high taxes, are very much lower than American salaries. And if you work as a shop manager, you earn perhaps $1,500 netto, I mean after taxes, and then you have an energy bill of maybe 100 or 200 euro per month, and we have harsh winters, and just imagine this. And this is, you see these people there standing and crying, and nobody can do anything about it. And that's now increasing. And the other point I wanted to make, which is also important, when you talk to a green guy visiting the United States and talking about the great successes of the green energy transition, they always present single examples, like the perfect technology of a hydrogen station or something like this. But when you, which is, German engineering, it works wonderful, it's probably not exploding in the foreseeable future, and so forth, yeah? But when you look at the overall picture, they start electrical cars and shut down big power stations. Isn't it a little bit contradictory? And there are millions of other things totally contradictory. So, and if a serious person asks, so what's this all about? If you need so much energy for electrical cars, why are you shutting down nuclear power stations, which are not even emitting carbon dioxide? The answer is something, yeah, you have to say this because the industry is paying you to say this, or even they tell us that we are Nazis, And that's like the debate. That's the level of the debate. And I could go on, like solar panels, same thing. And then also if this is so great, it's also a funny thing when you go hiking and you pass these solar facilities where the subsidies were running out. There is like grass growing on top of these solar panels. Nobody's removing this. So if we are so in favor of keeping the environment clean, why nobody's removing this? And why does it cost tens of millions of euro to remove only one or two little solar parks? And there's so much stuff going on, and it's really very frustrating, because now we get a new government which is even more to the left, and it's what they are discussing is
welcome to the club.
Yeah. And it's getting crazier and crazier, and you cannot change the reality. For example, winters are cold, and nobody on the left can explain this to me what they want to do about these cold winters.
So 60 seconds or less, because we want to get to the breakout sessions on time, but very quickly, can you tell the audience about your conference coming up? Where is it? When is it? Maybe a few speakers? Is it open to the public? All of that in 60 seconds.
Okay, the conference is similar to this one, so I don't need to explain it. It's in the city of Gera. The conference venue is still a secret, but trust me, it takes place. And yeah, we have a website for this where you find all the rest of the information.
So among the speakers are the kind of who's who. I mean, we didn't fit everybody in the two-day program, so it's Will Happer, it's Richard Linson, both in person. Then we have Dr. Crockford from Canada talking about polar bears. And we have Professor Ana Elias from Argentina, one of the also very active with sea level rise with Professor Maria Arusha from Portugal. So every topic, you know, of the, what about the polar bears, what about the sea level, what about extreme weather event, what about the acidification, we basically cover almost everything you cover in your book with really, if you look at this program, professors, it's almost an overkill on academia and research experienced people. So if you want to join us, we would be glad to host you. I mean, just contact us. I mean, in case you're afraid of logistics and so on, we will do our level best that you really, almost like in a full package deal, can come and attend our conference. We would really appreciate it, and we are convinced that you will love it, and we will definitely organize for you even a special tour of Eastern Germany. And
they will. Their hospitality is amazing. There'll be about 20, 25 speakers. They have the translation headphones, so you'll get it in English. I encourage anyone who is inclined to do so. You can contact me for more information, jtaylor@heartland.org. Wolfgang Müller, Holger Thust, the European Institute for Climate and Energy. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you.